This podcast is sponsored by Skylight Frame. Mother's Day is almost here. What are you getting her? Something that shows you care. Something that makes her feel loved. Something that won't stress you out. Something like the Skylight Frame. The Skylight Frame is the perfect gift. It's a touchscreen photo frame your whole family can upload photos to, from wherever they are in the world. It's a way to share with her all the moments that matter. It sets up in seconds. You can even make sure that it's already loaded with photos when your mom opens her Mother's Day gift. And her Skylight Frame can hold thousands of the treasured photos you share. It's an easy, heartfelt way for mom to stay connected with those who matter most. It really is the perfect gift. Now, as a special Mother's Day offer for our listeners, get 15% off your purchase of a Skylight Frame when you go to skylightframe.com/easy. That's SKYLIGHTFRAME.com/easy. Get 15% off your Mother's Day purchase now at skylightframe.com/easy.
Welcome back to the Curious Kid Podcast. We are just 4 weeks away from the end of Season 2, and we have some more details about our Season 2 giveaway.
We are going to wrap up this season with the Curious Kid Podcast Q&A.
That's right. If you check out Curious Kid Podcast on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter, you will find a link to a survey. The survey has 10 questions, and it should take only a couple of minutes to fill it out. It's not a quiz. The survey just asks you things like how you found out about our podcast and when do you like to listen to the podcast. When you fill out the survey, you will have the chance to ask a question to me and Olivia. You can ask whatever you want. Maybe you want to know Olivia's favorite color, or you want to know how we decide what to get curious about every week. You can ask us anything, and we will answer your questions in the Season 2 finale episode that will release on Sunday, September 29th. And here's the great news.
3 people will randomly be selected to win some awesome Curious Kid Podcast merchandise.
We have some amazing merchandise. We will randomly select 3 people that fill out the survey, and 2 of them will win $25 worth of Curious Kid Podcast merchandise. And 1 grand prize winner will win $50 worth of Curious Kid Podcast merchandise. The deadline to fill out the survey is 2 weeks from today, Sunday, September 15th. So don't delay. Head over to Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter to access the survey. Thanks in advance for your participation. Okay, why don't you tell everyone what we are getting curious about this week?
This week we are getting curious about the tongue.
The tongue is a really interesting part of our body, and it plays an important role in a lot of essential functions. For all of the grown-ups out there, a lot has changed regarding what we know about the tongue since we were kids. It turns out that some of the things we learned in school were wrong. So stay tuned to find out what has changed. What's the question of the week?
The question of the week is, who has longer tongues? Men or women, or are they both the same?
This podcast is sponsored by Skylight Frame. Mother's Day is almost here. What are you getting her? Something that shows you care. Something that makes her feel loved. Something that won't stress you out. Something like the Skylight Frame. The Skylight Frame is the perfect gift. It's a touchscreen photo frame your whole family can upload photos to, from wherever they are in the world. It's a way to share with her all the moments that matter. It sets up in seconds. You can even make sure that it's already loaded with photos when your mom opens her Mother's Day gift. And her Skylight Frame can hold thousands of the treasured photos you share. It's an easy, heartfelt way for mom to stay connected with those who matter most. It really is the perfect gift. Now, as a special Mother's Day offer for our listeners, get 15% off your purchase of a Skylight Frame when you go to skylightframe.com/easy. That's SKYLIGHTFRAME.com/easy. Get 15% off your Mother's Day purchase now at skylightframe.com/easy.
The tongue has 8 muscles. 4 of them are called intrinsic muscles, and the other 4 are called extrinsic muscles.
The intrinsic muscles change the shape of the tongue, and they are not attached to bone.
The extrinsic muscles change the position of the tongue, and they are attached to bone.
There's a line that goes down the tongue. It separates the left and right side.
It's called the lingual septum. It's a groove in the middle of the tongue. The front and back of the tongue are also divided into two parts. The front part is called the oral part, and the back part that is attached to the throat is called the pharyngeal part.
The tongue is important for tasting food and a lot of other things also.
We use the tongue to taste food, to manipulate food in their mouth, for speech, and for cleaning the teeth.
There are tiny taste buds on top of the tongue to help us taste food.
The average adult has about 3,000 taste buds on their tongue. You can't see most of them with the human eye. If you look closely at the tongue, you can see pink and white bumps. Many people think these are taste buds.
Sorry, those things are called papillae.
And papillae are not taste buds. They are actually hair-like and are small buds that contain the nerves responsible for taste. There are bigger taste buds located in the back of the tongue, which you would be able to see. The problem is that even when someone sticks their tongue out, you only see about the front 2/3 of the tongue, where the taste buds are not visible because they are too small.
The tongue also helps us manipulate our food.
Exactly. It is important in helping us chew. It pushes food against the hard palate. The hard palate is at the top of the mouth behind your front teeth. When the tongue pushes food against the hard palate, it is able to crush and soften the food, making the food easier to swallow.
The tongue is also very important for speech.
This can be an overlooked function of the tongue. It's really important in helping us speak clearly.
The tongue also helps clean our teeth.
It does. It plays a very important role in cleaning your teeth by wiping excess food and bacteria from your teeth. You can keep your tongue clean by brushing it when you brush your teeth. Not only will brushing the tongue help keep bacteria away, but it will also help prevent bad breath.
Different parts of your tongue do not taste different types of food.
Okay, grown-ups. You remember that we learned that different parts of your tongue are used for tasting different things? For example, the back of the tongue is used to taste bitter food, and the sides are used to taste sour food. Well, things have changed. The taste buds that help us differentiate different tastes, like bitter, sour, sweet, and salty, are mostly located on the borders of our tongue, but there aren't specific areas for the different tastes. Speaking of taste, did you know that you can't taste food unless your saliva moistens it? If your tongue was completely dry, it wouldn't be able to taste anything. Saliva needs to be part of the equation.
Daddy, there's a new taste that you didn't learn about when you were a kid.
That's right. In addition to bitter, sour, sweet, and salty, we now have umami. That's a fun word. Umami describes the savory taste from things like broths or cooked meats. So much for our childhood educations.
By the way, the tongue is not the strongest muscle in the body.
That's something else many of us were taught. It came from the idea that the tongue, unlike other muscles, never really seems to get tired. Have you ever had a tired tongue? But the tongue is not the strongest muscle in the body. It's not fair to give it that honor because it is actually a collection of 8 muscles, as we already learned. There are other muscles in our body that are really stronger than the tongue, like the heart and the masseter, which is a very strong muscle in the jaw.
Your tongue is unique. Nobody has the same tongue as yours.
Just like fingerprints, your tongue can theoretically be used to identify you because every tongue is different. Obviously, identifying people by fingerprints is a little more convenient.
Are animal tongues different than human tongues?
Sure. Dogs and cats have tongues that are very rough, and they often use their tongue to clean their bodies by licking off oil and parasites. Some animals have tongues called prehensile tongues. A prehensile tongue can grab food for the animal. What are some examples of animals with prehensile tongues?
Frogs, chameleons, and anteaters.
Tongues are also used in many phrases like tip of the tongue, to describe trouble in remembering a word you should know, tongue-in-cheek, which refers to something that should not be taken seriously, or bite my tongue, which refers to not saying something you really want to say.
Also, a tongue twister is something really hard to say.
Let's try one out. Repeat after me. She sells seashells by the seashore.
She sells seashells at the seashore.
That's a good try. That's a tough one. Okay, how about we answer the question of the week? Do men or women have longer tongues?
Men have longer tongue, but it's really close.
For men, the average tongue is 3.3 inches, and it is 3.1 inches for women. These measurements are for the entire tongue, even the part in the back you can't see. The longest tongue in the world, according to the Guinness Book, belongs to Nick Stobrel of California. His tongue measures about 4 inches, and that is only from his closed lips to the tip of his tongue. That is incredible. Well, that's a wrap for this week's episode.
Thank you for listening to this week's podcast number 48 on tongues.
Great job, Olivia. Don't forget to head over to Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter for access to the Curious Kid Podcast survey for a chance to win some awesome merchandise. While you are there, please follow and like us so you can see all of the great things we have posted on social media. As always, thank you so much for listening and getting curious with us.